Marianne Ambrose, Marianne de Mexico. And we've got our co-host here, Denise Vargas, and our constant contributor, Barbara. And behind the scenes, Emily Gulmer. Unless, Emily, are you going to be starting out the show and talking? Ambrose. Oh, she just went on mute. All right. So we are trying Marianne Ambrose again. So I am Kurt Roskopf, pleased to be a co-host here with the World of Ability podcast, which is now also being picked up by the Pact channel. And we always give our kudos out to the Disability channel. We are enjoying a couple years of involvement with the Disability channel. So the World of Ability podcast is founded to keep those conversations going, being attentive to the disability community and looking at the world at large through the lens of people with disabilities. So as a conversation starter, we go right into the demographics of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, the deaf community, blind community, people with physical disabilities, those that are living in chronic pain, everyone out there with a mental health diagnosis, and everyone with a goal of substance use reduction. And with that, throughout a year of programming, you'll notice that we are spanning faith life, service life, lifelong learning, things that come to us through government, everything through the business community, and all of those fun things like hobbies, pastime, leisure activity, travel, so on and so forth. So let's get into it. Denise Vargas, would you like to say hello to our audience and what you came today with for the show?
Hello, our beautiful audience. Yeah, listen, I'm just here to have fun. We always have fun when we're doing these shows. We get to know a lot about each other, and we love hearing what others have to say. So please like, share, subscribe, and comment, and let us know what you want us to talk about.
All right, so Marianne Ambrose was on again with the Shakedown, led by Jim Turk, and we had Doug and Mark and Chris and Joni and others, so we already had some sharing going on with that session a couple hours ago. But Marianne Ambrose, there we go. We got the hermit crab going there. What's your story, Marianne? What's your story?
Well, aloha and hola. I'm Marianne of Waikiki, and I am in Cabo San Lucas this month and next month. So happy to be here. Thank you, Kurt, for hosting us. And I'm the author of the Acts of Kindness bits, the books are animation movies with sign language characters, and soundtrack by our local Hawaiian artist Lucy and the Perfect Wave. So Christmas, I flew over from Hawaii to San Diego and joined a friend of mine who is a captain to complete his 2-year journey of sailing solo from Hawaii to Alaska to Canada to Mexico. So here I am, the last port. And I'm enjoying it here in a little community here with a bunch of Canadian friends. They're very kind, compassionate people, helping one another. And I have created now the coloring book with Dr. Fingers, the finger spelling hermit crab, and another app game, Bad Karma, for my first book, Underwater Acts of Kindness. So maybe you think I'm sitting out there so going playing. Well, I am, because I'm working, creatively working, just like our co-host our host, Denise Vargas from Happy Neighborhood Projects Ability. Take it away, Denise. Tell us how to live creatively, because I am.
I love that. Yeah, it's like, I always tell people that if you don't think you're creative, you are, because you're creating your life every single day. So why not live the way you want to live, right? How about shutting out all that outside noise of people telling you that you're too old, it's too late, or you're too crazy? Let's show them how crazy we can be in living life creatively. Absolutely.
All right, so let's get to podcasting creatively. We have Barbara on here. Barbara always colors things up with, her words of wisdom, her world of wisdom. Wow. Barbara, come on here. What's on your mind today and what's bubbling up for sharing with our audience? Take it away, Barbara. You are on mute.
Unmuted and not sideways anymore. Yay. uh, you know, I don't know if you guys know about rainbow gatherings, but started in the 70s, where at a different national forest, all these people will come together and say, let's create the beautiful vision of the world that we want to see. And, for at least a week. And the week is always the week of the 4th of July, because the idea is no fireworks, it scares animals, pollutes the environment. Celebrating the 4th of July by children having a big parade and all kinds of costumes and singing and playing music, and all the people having no money exchange at all, food for everybody. They'll have the sister village and the kitty village and the Hare Krishnas, and you have the Jesus camp, and you have the I'm trying to think, Jerusalem, where the Orthodox Jews can tend to be, and the Lovin Ovens, and you have chiropractors and massage therapists and people that understand plant life and botanists, and coming to teach each other and to help heal each other. And, a group, a village, it's all about music. And we come together and just create the most wonderful environment, I always think, for a week. And we were talking last time I was at a rainbow gathering. They were talking about we have to have the crazy lady village because so many ladies, because they would get really passionate about things they felt strong about, would, people would go, this woman's crazy. But, we knew, like Erin Brockovich, we knew like Florence Nightingale, that wasn't ladies being crazy at all. It was ladies just being passionate about what they were feeling strongly about and trying as hard as they could to communicate changes that need to be made in society. And yeah, I kind of, when Denise was talking about people saying, oh, you're crazy, this was like, yeah, let's make it loud and proud and talk about, supposing they gave a war and nobody came, could it really be that easy? People just didn't show up. If we all understood our own humanity, our own power, our own potential. And that was one thing that I thought I really want to share. And then the other thing is, I've been walking around with a walker since I've had my operation. And I am amazed, Denise, I am amazed at how someone in a wheelchair, like in the complex that I live in, they don't have a way in or out of this complex in their wheelchair. You either have to be in a car, or you have to be able to walk through this like thin walkway, and it's not wheelchair accessible. And I'm beginning to see, because of my experience right now, you've seen for a long time, and want to share that.
Wow. Yeah, and it's a great point that we often don't understand someone else's situation until we find ourselves in the situation, or at least in a very similar situation.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for bringing that up, because again, here at World of Ability, we really want to bring awareness, and we have a lot of fun doing this. But our end goal also is to bring awareness to people with disabilities, and how we can all work together to really change this beautiful world that we live in and make it even more awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I will highlight too, Denise. I broke my foot on a boat cleat in Hawaii, and I had to have 2 surgeries on my foot with screws, and I was wheelchair bound. And so what oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I live on a boat. I can't walk out to, the boat dock, and yeah, it was quite a learning experience over that year. And then taking the disability bus, and the Hawaii bus system is amazing over there. And anyway, yeah, you have to do it. You have to experience it. And also too, when I was taking college courses too, they made us wear hearing aids and walk around with glasses so that you felt like how the other person felt. So you knew you know what I mean? How, if it happened to you, what you're doing when you're working with the other ones to make you a little bit more compassionate. And to see the other side of the person too. He would always make sure that, you look tired, your eyes, you need to go home and go to bed. And guess what? I listened to him, because it's the other person too, how I look though too, even trying to do that. So anyway, on History Month, and we're making history, right, Denise?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, Dr. Fingers is a Star is Born. Oh, he's got his own coloring book now. So exciting, Denise.
Awesome. We can't wait to see those coloring books. But interesting, Marianne.
Yeah, and I got 2 more to come out.
Awesome, awesome.
But
you make a great point, Marianne.
go ahead.
I remember a few years ago, I knew of a person that wanted to really get others to understand what it was like to be disabled and to, be a wheelchair user in particular. And he asked everyone in his office to sit in a wheelchair. He actually got wheelchairs from, I think, medical supplies store, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, so he got a bunch of wheelchairs, and he had everyone sit for the entire day, the whole 8 hours that they were working. They had to stay in the wheelchair, and anything that they do, they had to figure it out from the wheelchair. They couldn't just say, oh, let me just stand up and reach for this. Oh, this fell, let me just bend over and get this. Or let me just quickly get out of the chair to do this. Everything that they did when they went to the bathroom, they had to figure out how to get close enough to the sink to wash their hands, and how to get into the stall and not have to have their wheelchair hit the toilet. So it was really interesting. It was a great experiment, and he really brought a lot of awareness with this brilliant idea that he had. And, if we all kind of figured out a way to really give them temporary hands, excuse me, temporary hands-on experiences, it would be interesting to see what their perspective is after. And actually with that, for those who are new listening to the show, I just would like to ask Kurt to tell us a little bit more about him and his experience, because, Kurt has a very unique and awesome story. Really, when I first met Kurt, I thought he actually had a disability. Matter of fact, I actually thought he was a wheelchair user for a while until I really got to know him and realized that, oh, he's got a very unique and really, beautiful story, really inspiring. And these are the type of people that I would like more people to kind of become like, because he's a real ally. And I'll let him tell the story, because no one tells it better than my brother Kurt. So Kurt, tell us how you came into the world of ability, how you created this show, and really the story behind it.
All right. So before I get into answering that, I just want to take a little programming time here to wish everybody National Girl Scout Day. Happy National Girl Scout Day. Happy Alfred Hitchcock Day, Happy Aztec New Year, Happy International Fanny Pack Day, Happy National Baked Scallops Day, and Happy National Plant a
Yeah.
Flower. so there you have it. So, but back to the story. Yeah, I was born back in 1971 out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Hey, we don't
And
need to go that far.
well, it is a little bit of a lead in because my parents and grandparents and other people around me, members of Lions, Lioness, Knights of Columbus, Ladies of Columbus. So as the story goes with those service clubs, that as a child brought me into the community of people, as we'd say now, intellectual and developmental disabilities and the blind community. And so interesting stories to tell there. And then if we fast forward to high school, I basically, well, I guess even before high school, I guess it was in high school, I joined the Pewaukee Lake Water Ski Club. And then subsequently, it was just a few years later after my joining that they started a community service project taking adults with disabilities water skiing. So now we're for sure talking about people with physical disabilities and then other adults with, other disabilities. And so a great once a year event that still continues today. And then also in high school, I got an Optimus International scholarship, which with Optimus International, they do a tremendous scholarship program that is distributed through a contest. And so students compete in an oratorical contest in what I know as people referring to mainstream students. And then for students who are deaf or hard of hearing, there's the communications contest for the deaf and hard of hearing. So kind of even before living up being a full-fledged adult, so to speak, moving on to college and so forth, already having interesting experiences in the 70s and 80s about all that. And I remember firmly the summer of 1990, where the Americans with Disabilities Act was released. Even with those references, I was not really involved with the disability community, truly, kind of having these novel experiences, but pretty much for the most part, just going back to the life of Kurt Roskopf and living that segregated world that that most of us, know still is perpetuating today. And so on the water ski side of it, what happened about 8 or 9 years ago is that through friends cultivated in our community here, got to a point where lo and behold, we'd end up inviting a man with a disability, a power wheelchair user, happens to have cerebral palsy, to come out to our ski show to be a part of the show. So this is where the rub exists, that he came out doing everything he needed to do to ski that night. But what happened was 2 of our friends that we love dearly were not involved in the planning of that. And we didn't bother to tell them, what was going on. And happens to be one of them president of the club and the other a board member of the club. And they felt the need to insert their authority, come over and tell me that this man is not going to ski. And and I learned later, the disability community taught me that that's called microaggression. When you're approached about the business of somebody with a disability, where by all rights, that business should go right to that person with a disability. And furthermore, my friends didn't even think it necessary to tell this man, our friend, what the change of plans was. They just let him sit there. The show's going on without him. And then the show's over. And it's just kind of like he just assumed there was like some, I'm going to say, honest reason why he didn't ski. And months later, when I told the story, like I'm saying now to somebody else, and this time in his presence, he was rather, and legitimately upset when he heard what really went on there. He first learned it from me telling the story long after the fact, after I've already told probably 100 people his story, and having that insight of what really happened. He was legitimately upset. And so this is where, when that happened that night, I was disturbed where it interrupted my sleep. And I woke up the next morning and talked to my wife and daughter to see if they, felt I was, just kind of making something up and just needing to put it behind us and move on, or what. And they shared my insight that was just flat out wrong. And so we became a water ski family that said, you know what, everybody gets to water ski. And so we fashioned with our friends, with the help of our friends. They helped us fashion the Inclusion of Water Skiing campaign. And through that, we more than sextupled the access to the sport of water skiing in 6 years. And so now what we're doing is we're also cross-pollinating that success over to our faith life and helping others with their faith journey. Think about this factor. Looking at service life, when I talk about optimists, helping our optimist friends realize that there is a gaping hole. Like just the start, I could suggest Optimist International could multiply its membership by people with disabilities by 33 at minimum. Like that would be a neat introductory campaign. They take their best guess how many members in the world have a disability in their membership, multiply that by 33, and it'd be very achievable. Very achievable. And then when we look at lifelong learning, things going on at libraries, any educational program, they even have the term edutainment, that the providers of these programs ask themselves, do they have any reason to believe that 1 out of 4 people in their audience is a person with a disability? And pretty close to 100% of the time. And obviously there's some educational opportunities squarely for the disability community, but when it's a quote unquote mainstream, or as I say, a falsely claimed mainstream event, providers of these events routinely admit that they're pretty anemic in having people with disabilities benefit from that education. And then when we think even in terms of government, I was on the Wisconsin Council for People with Disabilities, for people with physical disabilities, Wisconsin Council on Physical Disabilities. And obviously that council had great representation, from people coming to us through the community of people with physical disabilities. But then when you look at other work being done in government, it's like that's the exception to the rule, without it being legislated that's how the board is formatted. You see routinely that people with disabilities are not the ones that are shaping the future of our government, which is very sad to see. Obviously, to the point of having these councils for people with disabilities, that's great, but why not every, leading body be represented by people with disabilities? And then we, think of our business life. We know each other through the Happy Neighborhood Project. So we created H&P Ability to help the professional community there with H&P and the Happy Co-op to make it a frontline priority that people with disabilities are definitely in leadership and definitely, a significant force in the future of the Happy Neighborhood Project. And my hope is that catches on widely across the global marketplace. And then when we think of hobbies, pastime, sports, leisure activity, recreation, travel, all these things that we do to fuel our lives, that we ask ourselves, how well are we including people with disabilities? And there too, I would say that if people are honest, there too, we could probably multiply the involvement by people with disabilities by 33, because it tends to be that people with disabilities more have to go through their community and look at disability service organizations and so forth to have a fair crack at having these opportunities, which great kudos for the disability services community. But I asked the question, why does it have to be that way? Why can't we look at every sports team, every form of recreation, all travelers, all travel companies? Why can't we come forth and say what we do is for everybody? Maybe in some athletic situations, it may be for certain teams and certain tournaments and stuff like that, that people with disabilities would maybe have other roles than the athletic role during the competitive game. But to look at in the sport and in the local community, where do people with disabilities get to take on that activity in the format that works best for them? So it just goes on and on. But yeah, for sure, it started with that disturbing moment where I'm like, really? I'm on demand 2 or 3 days a week on a lake, and my friend was just told that he doesn't have any access to what I'm doing. So there you have it, Denise. That was a pretty thorough rundown. Did you like that?
Wow, that was a mouthful. But you know what? It was awesome. Awesome. I love doing the story.
I know. And I just want to highlight, Kurt, too. You and Emily helped me out in a situation, too, where I was an interpreter for the HMP Ability channel. And I was being discriminated against and harassed by a housemate. And you guys helped me out by knowing what was going on. You listened to me. You knew who I was, and I wasn't lying about anything. And you saw what happened. And obviously I'm not there by good reasons, but you did. And you also helped me out too by writing a letter. And that made a whole world of a difference. And also too with HMP Ability, with having Legal Shield to protect my rights, to not allow this discrimination to happen. And for the person who has done something like that. Now, so that's in the past, I've let it go, but I'm a strong advocate. When you see something like that, if it's highlight you so much, I can't thank you enough for the world for the love, support, and encouragement, support for all Asian people too as well. Thank you so much, Kurt and Emily. Mahalo. Back to you.
Yeah, we all have to work together. Definitely, we all have to work together to make the world change, because it's even like let's go way back in history when the settlers came to the United States, before it was the United States, and they drew up the Constitution. And matter of fact, we spoke about this not too long ago on how the Constitution really should be tweaked a little bit now, right? Like we've amended other things. Why can't we amend, more of the Constitution so that we truly are equal, so that we don't have to worry about going, in particular, like Kurt said, going into government official buildings that are inaccessible. I mean, like, these are government official buildings. The people that make the laws, the people that enforce the laws. And yet here we are on it. Like I remember having to go into one of my government official buildings a few years ago, and I had to go in through the back, and it was just such a awkward, uncomfortable feeling of being treated like I don't even want to say second rate citizen. I didn't even feel like a citizen. I felt like I'm here going for something that I need to go to this building to take care of. And I was treated very, well, you need to go over there and you can't come here. And it was just horrible, horrible, horrible feeling. So yeah, we need to come together. We need to have more Kurts in the world. We need to have more allies who do not have disabilities. And I say this with a air quote because in all honesty, we don't even know who has a disability. Oftentimes you can go into adulthood. And matter of fact, I was just speaking to two friends of mine about this not too long ago, that there are people who in their 30s and 40s realize that they have autism. They never knew, right? Because it's an invisible disability, and they just never knew. They just thought that they were a bit odd or quirky or who knows, right? There's just something a little different about that person. But they didn't know they actually had a condition until well in their adulthood after they had their own kids. Matter of fact, I remember seeing a show on YouTube about a woman who had autism and didn't know, as she married someone who had ADHD, they had children and they didn't realize that there was anything wrong with them as adults until they realized something odd about their children. And then they had their children tested. Their children were diagnosed as having autism. And then they realized, oh, I was like that when I was younger. But they just never knew. So again, I say that in air quotes, that normal people, because we can all have something and not know it, or we can just all age into having a disability or an inability to do something the way we used to do it. So yeah, we just all need to work together. So thank you, Kurt, for sharing that story, because every time that I hear that story, I just get goosebumps and I'm like, yes, this is how it's done. So thank you.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. You're probably getting goosebumps because you're picturing water skiing and being out in cold Wisconsin weather and having a chill from the wind. And no, but I get it. I get it.
You got that right. I am so excited for everyone that does it. I will go and see it, but me getting in the cold water, not so much.
That's all right. That's all right. Like I say, I just invite people to come lakeside and enjoy lakeside however they prefer. And, just enjoy that the people that do want to get out on the lake are able to do so. And we all celebrate that together, that we each have a different role. I tell the story about I met a gentleman through a resource fair that I was going on and on about water skiing. And then it got to a point where I'm like, this dude is not interested in water skiing. I'm like, I got to stop talking about water skiing. So I just looked at him and I told him that. I'm like, you're good at your nonverbal cues because you're giving me the biofeedback that water skiing is not your thing. So I asked him what his thing is, and he said chess. So I thought, well, there you go. And then all of a sudden my mind was going through like to think, creative events, event creatively, whatever it is in the live creatively, or just saying live creatively. You could say, okay, you got a guy who loves chess. He could bring his chessboard and everything out there. He'd be ready to play. And we could have people rotate through to take him on in chess during our water ski event. That's what I told him. It never happened, but it at least seemed to give a little better reaction that he actually started enjoying the conversation. So there you go, adapting.
Exactly. And I love that, because here's the thing, that you read his cues, you saw that he wasn't into this, but you still wanted to include him. And it's all about being inclusive. It's all about saying, hey, how can we all just enjoy this beautiful world together and not be excluding anyone, right? Regardless of their ability, whether it's an ability of actually not being able to do something the traditional way, because there's always a way. If there's a will, there's a way. You just got to get creative about it. But here's this person who just did not really care about the water skiing part of it, but you still wanted to include him, right? And it's just about that. What can we do so that we're all doing stuff together and not just shutting people out just because they don't have the same interests that we have? Doesn't even have to be about a disability or an inability to do something. It could just be that they just don't want to do that, don't care for that. Like I'm not a big sports person, right? So, but here's the thing, even though I'm not a big sports person, they're watching the football game, I'll watch it with them. I might be doing something else along the way, or maybe we might be, having a different conversation while they're still watching the game, but we're still also doing something together. So we're still including everyone.
Yeah, it's interesting hear how you're not a sports person. Well, here Edwin at the last worldwide main event during the halftime show, he's showing how not too many years ago the Nigerian team in soccer made a tremendous victory, which basically changed the history of the continent of Africa in the sports arena, because up until that point that soccer game was won in a world tournament like that, Africa never had won an Olympics. There's no country in Africa that ever, won in the Olympics or any other sport that's on the world stage until that moment. And then lo and behold, in the recent years, the continent of Africa has been shining with championship teams across various sports. So he kind of, built that up, because we have this coming Friday is International Day of Happiness, and we're looking at a Guinness Book World Record in speed networking. And right now, when you look at the pace of building up to the number we need to reach the world record, he pointed out that if you think of it like in a sports analogy, it's like watching a sports game where you can kind of tell it's not looking good for the team right now. And so he's like, if we're all honest, that's the way it looks right now. Like it looks like odds are against us to make that record. But he made the point of what happened for the continent of Africa, that it really became mindset. Once the soccer team broke that mindset that African countries are not going to win in the world stage of sports, and then all of a sudden other sports followed suit, because it became a thing. And that belief system, that idea of the year of Imagine for the Happy Neighborhood Project, he really pulled it together to say that he's counting on, for sure, the 150 people that were there at the worldwide main event, to then, he's like, if everybody goes and gets 3, if you just go, he said 450 more people. So he made a point about another 450 more people, but then you add that to the 150 that were there, that's like 600 people. And that's halfway to our goal. And he was saying, like, doing that like today, like now. And so today is Saturday, March 12th, until midnight Pacific time. Oh, look at that. We got fan club building in the background there with Marianne. Nice. So basically that's the call out right now for everybody who's seeing this podcast. Saturday, March 12th, prior to midnight Pacific time, please for sure send people to thehappycoop.com, have people sign up. You'll see that goes through the website happyneighborhoodproject.com. You can sign up for the free co-op. It goes in as shared. When you get there, it shows you shared co-op membership, which is something to consider. But then when we're not interested in that share membership, we switch it to free. So no cost. Then go and register your email address. You can go in there and buy a ticket or tickets for $10. So he was promoting, what would it be if people spent 30, 40, 50 bucks to grab up these $10 tickets and really soar our numbers. And then basically it becomes like with that 600, everybody just goes and gets one more person and we got the record. So he's really coaching us to take advantage of every day. He wants to kickstart it today. So we have a little more than 9 hours to go. So when this podcast ends, it's about a 9-hour window to go and make this happen. So have fun with that. Get people to Happy Co-op buying a ticket to International Day of Happiness, and considering multiple tickets, because if we can really get that out there, be exciting that the World of Ability podcast would be a part of a Guinness Book World Record accomplishment. So let's get her did, people, as Emily said. So Barbara, if you're out there, I want to bring you in and I want to talk advocacy, because people with disabilities don't have a monopoly on advocacy. The senior citizen community, aging community advocates. We have a friend, Zita, who advocates for all women of the world and how important it is for the children of the world. We have advocacy for the Latino community. There's advocacy for the Black community. There's advocacy for the Jewish community. I mean, there's like 10,000 different varieties of advocacy. So, Barbara, I want to ask you, what have you advocated for in your life for yourself? What have you had to advocate for in your life that was something you wanted in your life? The people you were with didn't understand how important it was for you to get or have or do or to have your message, and you had to advocate so that the group could understand what you were trying to do with them. What stories do you have, Barbara?
Goodness, so many things come up, but one thing is fasting. I was looking at Jesus fasted, and Pythagoras the mathematician fasted, and Mohammed and Buddha, and I wanted to have all the great experiences. And I'm hearing from Arnold Ehret and Mucus Diet Healing System how you can heal from many disabilities by fasting. So I wanted to try that. And people think that you're crazy, but you know where you get to spiritually or physically. In 3 days of fasting, I was able to find I had all this flexibility when I went to this dance class, and I had all this greater lung capacity. And I went to this yoga class, and I had much more endurance when I would go running in the morning. And then you find out somehow it's hard to share that. It's hard to talk to people. And, trying to understand that part of humanity that, when I was at the University of Maryland, and it was a football game kind of a thing happening, I think, and I was there, and somebody threw a bottle at my head, and they went, "Well, you're just high on life, aren't you?" And it just made them angry, and in jobs that I've had where I'm wanting to see a world that can be so much more affectionate, so much more compassionate and affectionate, and see each other as equals. And like working at Florida State Mental Hospital, I see somebody really tensed up, and I've had training in massage, and I would go and I would start, to massage their shoulders and all to get them to relax. And fellow workers were upset by that. Now they're going to want everyone to massage us. And I got let go of that job, being told, we're not letting you go because you're bad. We're having to let you go because you're too good. A fellow worker was upset at that job. Someone was depressed, and I went to where he was staying, wouldn't get out of his bed. And, I knelt down beside him to encourage him, to talk to him about getting out and getting fresh air. Someone that worked there in the same sort of job I had, thought that was getting too close. I lost another job because we were supposed to be advocating for the young people 5 minutes from our university, 5 minutes. We're living in just terrible poverty, and they weren't getting acknowledged for academic skills. They were getting more acknowledged for fighting skills and like that. So we said, we're going to create a summer program. We're going to help these kids feel really good about getting into academia. And the oldest boys, who were like 13, started becoming, if they became a problem in the class, people wanted to kick them out of the program. And I get up crying and saying, hey, how can you kick them out of the program when we're saying we don't want to reinforce their sense of failure? We're trying to give them a sense of success. So they determined, okay, the boys could stay only if I took them out of any class if they were getting disruptive, if they were getting too much attention on them. and take them like to the basketball, let them shoot hoops. And we'd be walking to the basketball courts, and kid would put his arm around me or hold my hand. There was this little girl in this program who was so scared. And one time I offered her candy, and she, from that point on, she just wanted to be by my side and holding my hand and, would do things, but staying so close to me. And somebody said, you could be influencing her into lesbianism. And from that program, I was told I was being too close. And so I was let go from there, and which was so silly, I felt safe, and I worked at a boys' reform school. Same kind of thing happened there, where for the boys, a smoke break was considered something that was gonna make them feel happy. That was what they looked forward to, and it was like, oh, that's silly. And I had really long hair then, and this one kid who didn't smoke, there were only 2 kids who didn't smoke in this program, the kids that I was with, I was teaching and I was counseling. And I let this kid say, here, let me plait your hair back for you, and you won't be so hot, because we were outside and it was a hot day. And so I let him braid my hair, and that was considered reason to let me go. I was told I had to leave the program, I would be a rape risk. So while I'm praying for a world that can be more affectionate and, we could be more trusting with each other, that could be playing games where people didn't have to go to the hospital, but could be win-win for everybody who is playing, and men and women and children could play, and it would, create a more affectionate world, a friendlier world. Then I found laughter yoga, which was the answer to that. Anybody, any age, men, women, children could do laughter yoga together. It helps people become more comfortable with making eye contact and hugging and laughing, and seeing the power to heal that laughter brings to people. So that's been like a theme again and again in my life that I'm hoping to develop, hoping to go on with, so that we really make this world a kinder place, where if some kid gets upset. And there was this girl, and in this program she was in, that was in nature, and it was wonderful. It was like a summer help program where children deserve respect. And she had a problem, and she broke the bed that she had. And instead of being told she was bad or punished, the guy who had started, this program for children goes, today you're going to learn how to build a bed. Come on, because we got the wood and we got the nails and the hammers. And so this is a chance for you to learn how to build something. And in that program, the mother said that's the happiest she ever saw her daughter, and the more her daughter was like coming out of herself, out of her fear and her anger that this kid seemed born with. There's so many stories like that we need to build on, that, and people cling to this kind of military, holding on to law and order, and, we need to really become one in mind. We could be, separate in bodies, but where it comes to the heart and where it comes to the mind, and having compassion for people and believing in the beauty of everybody, whether they're having trouble expressing it or not, we could make this world much more compassionate.
Wow. I love that. And I heard so many key words there. I heard, everyone coming together. It's a win-win, a more loving world. Oh my gosh, so many beautiful words. And that actually just goes right back to what Kurt was saying, how we have so much discrimination against the Latino world, the Black world, the Asian world, the LGBTQ world. Like, what if we all just came together and advocated for each other? what a big sounding voice we would have, because it wouldn't just be one set of people. It would be everyone, right? And that's what we like. Let's advocate for each other. Oftentimes we only think about advocating for whatever affects us personally, right? Like for me, would be the world of people with disabilities, right? The disability community. But what if I, went and marched with my Black sisters and brothers, with my Asian brothers and sisters, with my LGBTQ, like, what if we just all came together and advocated for whatever it is that we needed? Wow. Then we wouldn't even really need to think about segregation. We would all just be inclusive because we all want to be doing the same thing, which is loving this big, beautiful world and being able to do whatever anybody else can do without looking behind our shoulders, without thinking I can't get in here because it's not accessible. It's like, wow, what if we just eliminated all of that by working together?
Yeah.
Right. Well, I just want to, I want to share with you too, Denise, because being a sign languager, I got to go to a lot of different multicultural events as an interpreter. And coming in and not being biased, I've had the most amazing experience in my life. I got to sign for different places. So what I'm going to share with you with my deaf friend too, with him too, was that I'm helping you, you're helping me, we're helping each other. It was a big sign that and at the Unity Church of Hawaii too, we would sign that in the back of that too. So his lifestyle was totally different, but I enjoyed it, and I got to interpret for a lot of multicultural different places. And I did my job, and I miss him. I know he moved on, and he's doing very, very well. So, you gotta kind of appreciate the people that do come in, also too, that were there for you there too. So I do. I miss him. I cry. But I would have done everything without him. And we're moving forward. And he also told me too, you got to move forward, Marianne. You can't hang on to the past. Past is over. Because I know I'm on a radio show with you and talking what I used to do, and guess what? And say 2 years checked out, I had a totally different life and all that. And but it all does bring you back to it. And I kind of, I started going to the Unity Church of Hawaii in Hawaii, and I loved it. So, and guess what? I got to do more than I thought I could. The abundance was there, because if you don't show up, and unfortunately we had this COVID, you're missing out, right? From thought to action. And so if you wanted to make it happen, and unfortunately COVID happened, okay? And we send our spirits and souls to everybody we miss that couldn't make it through this transition or this whole, whatever you call it. Some of the interpreters, we've lost a lot of members that we really do. But anyway, I just wanted to share that. We do help each other, and we help move forward and all that. And we're so grateful that Happy Neighborhood Project, again, Edwin, we really appreciate you, and Kurt Roskopf too. These higher educated leaders, we need leadership like that, and we enjoy it. All of us need that kind of, I got to go on the beach down here last week. I got a whole different kind of sermon, which I didn't expect, but guess what took me there? But I got my fulfillment out of it. How you want to take it and move forward with it is all up to you. And that's called peace, love, happiness, and thanks. And so
That's
so
awesome.
Sounds good.
yeah, so thank you. No, seriously. And he's come back in peace, love, and happiness and thanks, but we all move forward. And also too, my deaf friend Scott too, he's like, you got to move forward, Marianne. I go like, well, you're hanging on the past. And I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, cool.
Well, it's all about.
But guess what? If that's the sign that when you've done something for 10 years or it doesn't get me wrong, but anyway, so those pictures are enjoyment to me because I knew who I was when I was over there, and I really felt really confident, and I still have that movement and vision in me. And so yes, people do structure you, and community and churches and all that to be a leader and a spokesperson too. And sometimes you gotta let go and take care of yourself. And it's about self-care too. So
Yes.
grateful to be here. So all of us too. You know, I didn't know I was going to be hit by an SUV with a hotel lobby, you know, so many years ago. I didn't know that I wasn't going to be like that kind of job position or whatever. So it all depends on how you want to come in. And guess what? I had to reinvent myself too, Denise. And I sat through meditation going, what's next? And our church be like, guess what? We're going to get, and I loved it because I always went. I got up and Scott and I would meet at the church. And I was like, wow, I get to interpret, listen to somebody new today. How cool is that? And all these leaders and teachers would come in. I'm like, I was just like, wow. And anyway, so I've learned to like move forward in those things of like not hanging on to those negativity type of things or whatever in transformations, but using those big words is cool. And but yeah, I mean, seriously, how would I? And then I manifestation came in. I'm like, and Scott is like always about, it's about your vibration, Marianne. I'm like sitting there, I'm like, I don't get it, okay. Right. But then I finally got it. And anyway, but he was so much fun. But like we were in sync. But anyway, things happen and things have manifested since then. Prior to that, I'm so grateful that we can leave all this legacy to the world. So thank you. Back to you, Kurt.
Awesome. And speaking about new beginnings, you know, because we're always starting a new chapter in our lives. I want to say hello to my beautiful sister Zita, who's all about healthy beginnings and a world of women and healthy children. Zita, do you want to say hi and tell us?
Hi, everyone. I'm sorry I came late. I'm on call and I just got a young woman that had a baby and needed some help adjusting and breastfeeding and all that good stuff. So I came late. I said, maybe let me give her that priority and calm her down and join you guys. So I'm glad to join you. And this woman is from Afghanistan. She is she's a refugee, arrived in the United States 6 weeks ago without her husband. You can imagine how that is after having a baby, you're by yourself, baby's crying, you don't know how to handle the baby and handle yourself. So people reaching out to her, people from the United States, and they don't have the language. And honestly, you don't need any language. The language of love is enough. So we were 3 people on the line trying to help one person. Me, the social worker, and the translator helping this woman. And I was so happy that we did that. And when we look at things that really build us, it's more enjoyable, it's stress-free than when we start to nitty picky, trying to see what the other person is and how better they are or they're not. That's when we end up, it's stress. And it's really not necessary. This day and age, just think about 2 years ago, what happened? All of a sudden, all our connections, physical touch with friends, family, were taken away from us. And none of us was really able to restore it. No matter how powerful we thought we all are, we had to go back to square one. Everybody started hibernating in our houses, in our homes, longing to connect. I'm glad that we are able to do what we're doing right now. And I know that it's only through connecting with one another. That's the only way out of this whole mess all of us are in. We need to reach out to one another, regardless of race, color, ethnicity, or what have you. We're all the same, I always tell my people, because as a midwife, I have that fundamental knowledge and nobody can take it away from me. I know people are really the same. So we have similar needs. We have that whole thing of love is in all of us. Let's just reach out, grab it, and share it with everyone else. And thank you so much for your support to Zita's Healthy Beginnings and World of Women. Wow, Screen Mom.
All right. Thank you, Zita. Thanks for being here. We are looking forward to the next origination of a WOW podcast, World of Women, Tuesday at 8 Eastern. And we have your partner in crime here, Emily Gulmer. I know she just finished with her conference planning meeting. And so let's bring her in here because we are in the tail minutes of her podcast here, The World of Ability. So we have the wow and the whoa. So
Yeah.
Emily, what say you, Emily? This is your time.
Well, thank you for everybody and joining us today. Kurt and I really appreciate it.
I do.
So, anyway, sorry I had to miss most of the conversation, but I'm sure it was a good one.
Oh, it was good. You're gonna look forward to seeing the
Oh, the fact that was whole.
I have to go back and watch the recording, or listen to the recording or watch the.
So how do you want to end it, Emily? Just wing it. Like what's our ending? What's your final thought? Deep thoughts with Emily Gomer. What you got?
Amazing women are here today speaking up about their business, their careers, their voices. Thank you. And you, Emily, you really need to be highlighted because you've done so much for everybody. So I thank you so much, Emily.
You are very welcome. But I wanted to give a big thank you to Marcus Hart and the Transform You Media Network.
Marcus Hart!
For allowing us to have this podcast on their platform. And to encourage everybody to share the or go onto all of our social media and share all the links. I haven't got the YouTube link in the chat, but I'll put that in. If everybody could share that on all their social media and other people, that would be lovely. And so, Kurt, do you have any last words?
Well, I guess my last words would be to add on to the thank you for joining us and echoing the whole idea of we're appreciating the reactions on our videos and comments in the comments section under our videos, and then the idea of sharing it. And I can add that if folks want to contact me, feel free to reach out, call and text 262-372-1SKI. That's 262-372-1754. And also feel free to send me an email, Kurt, K-U-R-T, at thedisabilitychannel.us. And so I would say we did one of Zach Clayton's style power-packed podcasts. And so we're happy to be picked up by the PAC channel. So with that, we'll let it go till tomorrow when we tune into the Blue Collar Crypto Show here at World Ability Podcast Network by our colleague Tim Tarosian. So with that, we'll sign off, and that's a wrap. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'll see everybody next week. We're here every Saturday at 2:00 Central. So until next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
all.
Stay happy.
Thank you.
Thank
Stay
you.
happy. Yes.
Stay happy.